So this week's Parsha Shlach concludes with the Parsha of Tzitzit, which of course is the third Parsha of Shema that we say at least twice, if not thrice, daily. And we speak a lot in this Parsha about the Techeilet. Right? The Techeilet is the blue string, and you see some people do in fact have this blue string on their Tzitzit. Right? I personally do not. Right? And let's gain an understanding in what this is about. Okay? You know the story of the rabbi who approached the president of the shul, and he wanted, he felt it was only fair that he should get a new talit, every 6 months.
Thank you.
And the president told him no fringe benefits. Okay, so let's go through our parsha. Yeah, at least. Vayomer Hashem al Moshe Lemor, Hashem said to Moshe, saying, Daber el b'nei Yisroel, speak to b'nei Yisroel, v'amar to them, and say to them, Asu lahem tzitzit, and have them make these tzitzit al kanfei vigdeihem, on the corners of their garments, lidorotam. What's lidorotam? For all generations.
Am I late? Is there later? 1:45?
You're late.
No, we start 12:30. Officially.
That message. All right.
Come right in.
V'natnu. Now it's interesting. We'll see in a little bit one of the sources that points out something very interesting regarding the placement of this word lidorotam. Again, say to them, they'll put tzitzit onto the corners of their garments lidorotam for all generations. V'natnu al tzitzit. And they should place on, or in English, they shall include with the tzitzit, al tzitzit hakanaf, on the tzitzit of the corners of their garments, they should place a patil techeilet, a twisted strand of techeilet. Techeilet is translated here as the sky blue. Vayalachem. I think so. Dov, are we on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Vayalachem litzitzit, and they will be for you as tzitzit. Ureitem oto, and you shall see it. Now, tzitz also means latzitz is to peek, is to look at. So it's something that you shall be looking at. Ureitem oto, and you will see them, uzachartem, and you will remember et kol mitzvot Hashem, all of the mitzvot of Hashem, va'asitem otam, and you will do all of those mitzvot. V'lo taturu acharei levavchem acharei einechem, and this will help us so as not to stray after our hearts and after our eyes, asher atem zonim achareihem, which we are led to immorality, which we lust after. Leman tizku, know that you remember vasitem et kol mitzvotai, and do all the mitzvot v'item kedoshim leilo keichem, and you will be kadosh, holy to your God. Ani Hashem Elokeichem, I am Hashem your God. Asher tzeitit etchem, took you out of Mitzrayim, l'tachem lelokim, to be for your God. Ani Hashem Elokeichem, I am Hashem your God. So we have this mention of this patil techeilet that needs to go on the corners. Now, just interesting to note that we're supposed to have kavana, intention, before we do a mitzvah. So normally the intention is I have intention to do this mitzvah to fulfill my obligation. There comes to mind 3 mitzvot where, in addition to the usual intention to fulfill the mitzvah, it's ideal to have an additional intention. In other words, for example, by tzitzit, right? Before I make my bracha, I have intention to fulfill my mitzvah of tzitzit, right? And to also So I'm wearing tzitzit. I make the bracha on my talit. I have in mind that the bracha on my talit should cover also the tzitzit that I'm wearing, okay? In order that I should remember all the mitzvot, right? So we also have in mind in order to remember all the mitzvot. So that's an additional kavana based on these psukim that one should have when performing the mitzvah of talit. Yes, Steve?
I've known this forever, what you just said, but it seems strange to have retroactive kavana on the Talmud's katan.
It's not necessarily retroactive. I'm going to be continuing to wear. I'm going to be continuing to wear those tzitzit throughout the day, right?
Now, if say Friday afternoon, you change your Talmud's katan to the Lekavod Shabbos.
So do you make another bracha? So, to the best of my knowledge, you do not. Right? If you took it off in order to shower, in order to change, then you're putting it back on.
But you're putting a different beged on.
Yeah. Even so, I believe that's considered a continuation of the same mitzvah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yes.
Excuse me, for those of us who don't know, because we don't wear them, you don't put a different one on.
Shut.
Yeah, I know. You don't put a different one on every morning?
A different one?
Do you sleep in it?
No, I don't sleep in it.
Okay, so
So,
as you put it on in the morning,
you're
you
right.
don't make a bracha?
I don't make a bracha because I'm going to be wearing a talis that day, right? And the main mitzvah is the talis, right? And maybe even on Tisha B'Av, where you're not going to be wearing your talis and tefillin until after chatzos in the afternoon, even there you don't make a bracha on the tzitzit when you put them on in the morning. Linda, you remember this, right? Only, right? You'll have it in mind afterwards. Okay. Techeilet. Let's move on to the point of today. Techeilet. So we have here, nowadays most people do not wear the techeilet. Right? Some do, majority do not. By what criteria does a person determine whether or not to wear techeilet? The real question is whether or not we have maintained the tradition of the authentic source of the Techeilet, as will be discussed below. In any case, tzitzit or a talit without the Techeilet does not prevent the fulfillment or minimize the meaning of the mitzvah. Okay? So we fully fulfill. Just 1 second. This is Lenny.
Lenny's calling in.
You might want to join the shir as long as he's not interrupted.
Tell him we said hello.
Huh?
Tell him we said hello.
Leonardo, I'm in the middle of a shir. I'm doing lunch and learn. If you want to join us, you're more than welcome to.
You're having a class.
Okay. So let me just get you lined up over here. And you're in, Len. All the way from Israel. I got a tissue box. I think that might be better.
Lawless Len?
Huh?
Lawless Len?
Lawless Len. That's what the judges called you.
I can stay. Stick it in the tissue box.
Okay.
Okay.
So there we are. Okay. I would have scanned and sent you the sources. Sorry, Len. Okay. Great to see you. Okay. So whether or not we have the Techeilet as part of the tzitzis, either way, we are fulfilling the mitzvah of tzitzis, and as I mentioned before, we'll soon see a beautiful diuk from the psukim, right? The diuk is how this is encapsulated in the wording of the psukim itself. Okay, so before we get to all that, we have a number of sources which discuss what are the Techeilet meant to represent. So the Gemara in Menachos, right? That's source number 2. Tanya Hayrameir Omer Rameir would say, "Man nishana Techeilet mikol minei tzivonim." How is Techeilet? How is the color of Techeilet different than any other colors? Meisha Techeilet dom eliyam. Oh, the Techeilet reminds us of the sea. V'yam dom elarakia, and the sea is similar to the heavens. The rakia and the heavens are similar to the kisei HaKavod, to the throne of Hashem's presence, whatever that means, right? Obviously, there is not a physical entity, but this is meant to focus our minds upward. Okay, why won't it be fully Techeilet? We'll come to some discussion of that also. So why is it the sea to the heavens to the throne? So over here we are told to go in steps.
Yeah.
The idea is to go slowly, to move from that which is familiar to that which is more removed. Okay, and by doing so we bring everything back to its source. I remember hearing there was someone who approached their rabbi and said, "Oh, Rabbi, come on, this seems so removed, right? You see that blue reminds you of the sea, and the sea reminds you of the heavens, and the heavens reminds you of God, and that way you have all the mitzvot. Rabbi, come on, isn't that getting a little carried away?" So the response was, well, there's another halacha that when a person is walking along in the streets, and before we had our washers and dryers in the house, people would hang the laundry outside, right? So there's another halacha that a person shouldn't gaze at the undergarments of a woman, right? So he said, oh, that makes sense. The rabbi said, exactly. Right? In other words, where is our mind? Everyone's mind jumps. Right? The question is, where is our mind jumping to? Right? So we want to try to become the person whose mind jumps from A to B to C, with C being the Kisei HaKavod, with C being the throne of Hashem's glory. Okay. In Mishnah Rabbi Elazar, we have two opinions there. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yisroel Omer, Lam Yisir Torah al Techeilet. Why does the Torah command us about the Techeilet? Nesha Techeilet dome l'sapir, because the Techeilet is similar to sapphire. Umate ha'elokim samthrinon haya, and the staff of Moshe that was made of sapphire. Lo malachat tasei shekol zman shesom mistakle b'Techeilet hazu. This brings us back to that miraculous time of our existence as a nation, and that way it brings us back there. Chachamim omrim, lamas yir Torah l'tcheilet. Why does the Torah command us about Techeilet? Nesha Techeilet dome l'sapir. Once again, it's like sapphire. About luchot, hayu shel safir. The luchot, the tablets. Right? Actually, we have them as Basil. We have to dye the wood blue over there. Right. According to this opinion, the tablets were not these white tablets as they're always presented as, but actually they were made from sapphire. Lo malacha, to tell you, she calls man Yisroel mistatlim b'Techeilet hazot. Whenever we're looking at this Techeilet, hein nizkarim b'mashakas v'luchos. It reminds us of the luchos. It reminds us of that which is written in the luchos, and then umekaimin osan. As a result of Chum saying, we will then start to fulfill what it says there. V'cheinu omer vayelachem l'tzitzit ureisem oso uzechartem. You'll see the tzitzis. You'll have the tzitzis. You'll see them, and you will remember. Actually, in the newsletter that I sent out this week, I brought another opinion of the Meshech Chachma, who says very beautifully that the strings are like the unfinished garment. The strings are the strands of the unfinished garment. To let us know that our view of the world, best represented by Brit Milah, is that God created an unfinished world in order for us to partner in His creation. And that's how he says, that's why the tzitzit remind us of all the mitzvahs. Because how do we partner with Hashem? How do we give our input towards bringing this world to its fulfillment, to its perfection, through the mitzvot? So that's the Meshech Chachma.
What about the Goyim? What's their purpose?
Their purpose, well, it's interesting. It's interesting. So the nations also, they have their mitzvot. Right? They have their mitzvot, which are the Sheva mitzvot b'nei Noach. Actually, on that point, Leonard, it's very interesting. This is what I explained to the guy working behind the desk at the optometrist that I go to. I said, Rabbi, if you don't mind my asking, why do you wear, why do observant Jews wear those strings? So I said to him, is that it's fascinating that all human society, unless they specifically want to make a point, right, they all cover their sexual organs. Right? All of humanity, human beings, you go out to the rainforest, wherever they are, right, men and women cover their sexual organs. Again, unless we're going to a place, a nudist colony, where the whole point is, we're going to Dafka, right? We're going to show you we're not going to. Right? We're here to make a point. But naturally, right, so garments represent the steps that humanity takes towards being in a more elevated state, than animals, right? And and that represents the commandments we have. And all humanity wears garments, right? And Jews, we wear these tzitzit, these strings, which are an extension of that garment, because our understanding is that we have additional laws that were given to us. So the garment that everyone wears represents the mission of humanity, and the extension of the garment represents those particular obligations that are specific to the Jews in our Torah. Okay, that somewhat helps in terms of the gun. Yes, Dov, and let's move a little further.
Working off of sapphire, right? Sapphire is sapphire.
Mm-hmm.
It seems in the Luca were sapphire.
Right.
Also means clarity. The original Luca, you could see, and it was clarity. Everything was clear about what Hashem wanted, the will of Hashem.
So you could see through them?
No, it was clear that you could see what...
It brought clarity.
Clarity, and so
okay.
We should see sapphire from there too, from the
I'm not clear what the connection between sapphire and clarity.
The clarity is, it says you're going to remember all the mitzvah.
But what's that to do with sapphire?
Huh?
What's the connection with that to sapphire?
You have a clarity of it, just like the Luca gave them the connection.
Okay. The Netziv, in explaining again about this Petil Techeilet, right? Now he's focusing on this Petil, right? Petil means a twist, a wrap. Okay. Now the way that it was done, our Tzitzit actually, we'll show and tell, right? It's actually four strings, right? That go through, and then we have the knots, and then the wraparounds. So one of them was of Techeilet, and that's the one that you would use to wrap around. So that string which wraps around the other white strings, that should be of Techeilet. This comes to teach us the Techeilet domeh lekisei hakavod. The Techeilet is similar to the kisei hakavod, to the throne of Hashem's glory. Uba lahazkir, and it comes to remind us the chol hishtalshelut chayei adam, that all of the events of our life, sheneged zobo chutei lavan min kanaf, that's represented by the white strings, bo mimekor ha'elyon, sibat kol hasibot yitbarach, al kein chut shel Techeilet potel chutei lavan. Right? The white strings are all the events of our life, and it is wrapped around by this blue string to let us know that it is Hashem, it is that Shamayim, it is that Kisei HaKavod that is wrapping around all that goes on in our lives. Yes?
I've seen people with different tzitzis with the Techeilet. Some of them have the shamish, so that the whole...
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that's the shamish. That's what I just said.
But so then you would expect that the blue would be around each section.
It is.
But I've seen others where that's not the case. So I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not a Techeilet wearer, right? But again, according to the Netziv, That is the idea. That we go through our life, but to recognize that our life, we are constantly wrapped. We are constantly enwrapped by this Kisei HaKavod, by Hashem, and guiding us towards the divine purpose.
Why the color blue?
Blue is heavenly.
Heaven.
Blue is the heavens, and we see, right, that the miraculous staff, the luchot, right, were all this color in order to bring our minds up towards the heavens.
So the Israeli flag is blue and white?
Yeah, well, the Israeli flag is blue and white. That actually represents something else, right? I think that's from sea to shining sea. That's greater Israel, right? You know, and the land in between. That the greater Israel. I believe that's what it represents, right? You know, but
But after weren't Techeilet and Arkamon royal colors?
yeah,
On the, it was used
on the
in
Big Day
Big
Kahuna,
Day Kahuna.
yeah, and also king garments. That's correct. That's
I
correct.
thought they used purple.
Hmm?
I thought purple was a royal garment color.
Yeah, so blue, right, there's a royal blue, isn't there?
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
I guess that's where it got its name.
Right.
Right, at some
right,
point it
you're
had to
right,
have been,
you're
right? Okay, but purple certainly also. Okay, from Ner LaElef, Rabbi Edelstein writes very beautifully that Tzitzit relates to the body and the soul. The white color and strings, the body. The Techeilet refers to the soul. The soul is invisible, and it is the job of the Techeilet to remind us of that which is invisible and to extend our end or limit. Techeilet, or Tachlit, means end or limit. Rav Hirsch writes the purpose to remind the eye that those things which are invisible also have reality. Thus, Tzitzit is a mitzvah which teaches us about the spiritual balance of man, the relationship with the body and the soul. Techeilet is related to the word Tachlit, shows there is a purpose in our existence. You know, and the Chavetz Chaim says, many people point out that all of our technological advances help us in, or can or should help us in our faith. Right? If I don't see it, it's not there. Oh yeah? Okay. I like to go into a room that's filled with carbon monoxide. Right? You won't see a thing. You won't see a thing. And then you'll decide if it's, oh, actually you won't be deciding anything. Right? You know, in other words, there is so much, and now we understand on the molecular level, on the atomic level, all that's going on, that what we think we see, we don't see. Right? We see this as a solid. Is this actually as something that is not moving? Is this moving?
Yeah.
It certainly is moving. On a molecular level, this is completely in flux. At a slower pace of movement than the gases that we don't see and the liquids, but it's constantly moving. So science lets us realize that there is so much more that our physical eyes can't see. And the Techeilet is meant to represent the soul, that which we don't see, but yet it is there. It is wrapped around, it is wrapping itself around all that goes on. This leads to a more complete understanding of ourselves. The sages tell us that the Techeilet of the Tzitzit is similar to the sea, which is similar to the heavens, which is similar to the holy throne. It is under this throne that the soul of man rests. Thus, when we see the Tzitzit, we begin to understand how everything works its way back to the source. That's what we're all about. Or told you may see it, the Techeilet, we will see God hidden beneath the surface of everything we look at. Techeilet, says the Ramban, represents a midah kolelet, a total perspective. We make only one thread blue, and not the entire garment. I seem to remember in the Gemara in Menachos, it was talking about 2 and 2. I seem to remember that there definitely is some some approaches that it's 2 and 2. For a whole blue garment would imply the total mastery of the soul over the body. Something unattainable in the world as we now know it. Rav Tzadok HaKohen writes that there will come a time when the soul will achieve this mastery. There will be this complete connection. Despite the incredible importance of the blue in the mitzvah, we are still able to fulfill the basic mitzvah without the blue dye on the tzitzit. Let's get him back.
Rabbi?
Yes.
Isn't there a medrash or something about Korach and the questions that he asked Moshe to try to challenge him? And one of them was, why can't I have a garment that's all blue?
Yeah. Yeah. That will come. We'll have a next week's parsha, actually. That is correct. Yeah. I got a phone call coming in and knocked Len out. I feel bad. Okay. Len is back.
Hello.
Okay.
Hola.
Okay. Now, at what point did we lose this Techeilet? Have we gotten it back? And is it so clear that we can fulfill the mitzvah without the Techeilet? It's important to know, many of the mitzvot are a group mitzvah. In other words, that, let's say, Sukkos, right? So let's say I only have a lulav, hadassim, and an etrog. I don't have any aravos. So let me at least do 3 out of the 4, right?
No.
Wrong, right? It's a package deal. The mitzvah is to have all 4 of them together. Without that, right? Now let's say I have a 4-corner garment, but I only have 3 strings. Better than none, right? Wrong, right? The 4-corner garment without the 4 tzitzit should not be worn. I have tefillin shel yad, tefillin shel rosh. I only have 1. What should I do?
Use 1.
There you do use 1. Because each one is a mitzvah bifnei atzmo. Right? Each one is its own separate mitzvah. And therefore, each one, you will do it. So too, when it comes to the tzitzit, ideally, you should have the Techeilet. If we're at a point where we don't have the Techeilet, or the Techeilet that is around today is not necessarily the right Techeilet, right? So the Gemara speaks about this Kala Ilan. It's not that you should have a blue string. It's you should have Techeilet, which is a string dyed blue by the Chilazon, which we'll soon see what this is, right? And therefore, short of that, don't put Kala Ilan, the Gemara calls it. Don't put blue dye. Actually, the Gemara calls that someone who is trying to pull the wool over someone's eyes. Sorry. Right? You're deceiving them. Right? You're making it seem like you have to... delay from Israel. Right? Right? But, right? So but it's very clear, we'll soon see that the halacha is the tzitzit are not dependent on the Techeilet. Even without the Techeilet, 4 white strings, we fulfill our mitzvah. Or a Gershon Henach Liner from some Sefune Tmune Chol says, we'll go in English, it seems that the Techeilet was still around in the times of the Gaonim, right? That's until about the year 1000. And that the Baal HaAruch saw the Chilazon and knew how to sketch it. However, right, the earliest statement regarding the absence of Techeilet approximately the 12th to 13th centuries. Nowadays, we only have white strings since the Techeilet has been hidden. And Rambam Maimonides, which is source number 8, rules Harei she'ein lo Techeilet ose lavan levado. Someone who does not have Techeilet will just do the lavan. Will just use the white strings.
Rabbi, can you explain how it was lost?
Yes. Okay, we're going to have an article in source number 10. Okay, but this is from the Alshech. This is fantastic. This is going back to the psukim that we said. And he says, the Alshik says, in the verses that we say every day, we have an allusion to this idea that we're not always going to have the Techeilet, and if we don't, carry on for all generations with the Tzitzit, even though you might not have the Techeilet. Let's hear this carefully. V'asu lahem tzitzit. The pasuk said, make the tzitzit al kanfei bigdehem, on the corners of your garments. We have not yet introduced the Techeilet at this point, right? It just says, put the tzitzit on the corners of your garments. What's that referring to? V'hu chutei halavan. That is a reference to the white strings. V'asu lahem tzitzit al kanfei bigdehem lidorotam. At that point, the pasuk says that will be for when? L'dorotam, for all generations. Kolel kol hadorot. That includes all generations. Ki halavan lo yechsar liolam. We will never have a situation where we don't have the lavan. We don't have the white. Ach, however, once we've already mentioned L'dorotam, you should know, Yesh davar she'eino l'chol hadorot. There is something that will not be available for all generations. V'zehu, and that's what the Psukim continue to say. V'natnu al tzitzit. You will place onto the tzitzit, hakanaf, on the tzitzit of the corners, petio techeilet, a blue string. Now, really, we would imagine it. Where should the word L'dorotam have been placed? At the end, right? Have the strings and have the blue on the corner strings. L'dorotam, for generations. It does not say that, right? The pasuk in Shema says, right? V'asulam tzitzit al kanfei b'dehem L'dorotam. Put the tzitzit on the corners of your garments. That's L'dorotam. And then in that very same pasuk, but after the word of the Dorotam, and you put on Tzitzit Kanaf, Petiel Techeilet. So the wording of the pasuk is letting you know
The order.
V'ze'eino l'dorotam. That will, it may not and it will not. That will not be for all generations. Ki lo l'chol dorot nimtza dam chilazon. It's not all generations that will have the availability or the clear knowledge of what actually is this chilazon, whose dam, whose blood was used as the dye for it. So he has a beautiful diak.
I think I was stringing this along.
Oh. So we have a beautiful diak from the psukim that the Dorotam will not be applying for all generations, will not be the case when it comes to the Techeilet. Yes, Steve?
Shows how my mind works. Grasshoppers, or you know, the Teimanim, is it? Have the tradition. They
Correct.
They know which of the correct
Right.
ones.
Grasshoppers, actually, according to the Torah, some grasshoppers are kosher animals and can be eaten. Right? The Yemenites, locusts, the Yemenites have the tradition, and to this day they will eat some of those grasshoppers. Right? Non-teimanim. Right? You seen that, Len?
I've already gone through that here.
Non-teimanim do not have this tradition, and therefore we do not eat it. Yes, Steve?
No, it was just that, you know.
Oh, certain
something that has been
traditions
lost.
that get lost.
Yeah.
Excellent point. Linda,
Will we have these again when Mashiach comes?
grasshoppers?
No, sorry, the blue.
I would imagine both.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not sure if I could actually, it doesn't seem all that appetizing to me.
Eat a grasshopper.
The grasshoppers, the Techeilet I'm fine with. Right, the grasshoppers do not seem all that appetizing to me. Though I did read that actually, I mean, when it comes to protein, these really, really pack a punch. They really pack a punch. Right?
Lots, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Lots of protein.
Yeah.
Not digestible. Not digestible.
You can eat almost anything.
No, I mean, biochemically speaking, we don't have the enzyme structure to break down the particular chitin coat that is the protein.
Oh. Well, in that case, I'm not missing that much. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
God.
Okay, so lastly, this is to round up, and the point that Marty had brought up, this is from aish.com, which in general is a wonderful, wonderful resource for just fantastic articles on everything. It's neighbors of our good friend Leonardo over there in the Old City, right? And wonderful, wonderful, wonderful resource. And they write there as follows. This is a quote from aish.com. Techeilet was a bluish dye obtained from the fluid of a sea creature. Now, interesting. We call it dam, right? Dam normally means blood, but it could mean the fluid of, right? It's like the life source of a sea creature called the chilazon. It was found on the coast of northern Israel. Actually, I think it was Zvulun who was not all that thrilled with the portion of land in Israel that were granted to them. And they were comforted, don't worry, you have the chilazon, and therefore everyone's going to have to come to you. You'll have this commodity that everyone will need. It's found on the coast of northern Israel, though there is a disagreement among scholars regarding what the chilazon actually is. Some say it is a snail, others say a squid, and some claim it is another type of mollusk. At any rate, this particular dye was very precious, and because of its value, the Romans who conquered Israel in 63 before the Common Error, E-R-R-O-R, seized control of its usage, right? They cornered the market on the chilazon. This caused the Jewish dyers to go underground. By 639 CE, at the time of the Arab conquest, the secret of Techeilet was lost altogether. In the 1850s, Rabbi Gershon Henoch Leiner, the Regina Rebbe, began to search for the long-lost chilazon. What he came up with was a type of squid that fits the Talmud's description. Within a few years, thousands of the Rebbe's followers were wearing his version of Techeilet, right? Now, so you might say, well, maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong. Why not go for it? Well, we'll see, besides what I mentioned before, that if it's not Techeilet, right, the Gemara didn't say, wear blue. The Gemara said it's got to be Techeilet from the chilazon. So if you're not wearing that, then you shouldn't be parading about, right, with the Techeilet if it's not the Techeilet. But more than that, however, in 1913, Rabbi Isaac Herzog, the chief rabbi of Ireland and later chief rabbi of Israel, discovered that the Techeilet dye of the Regina Rebbe included iron fillings in the process.
It should be filings.
Probably, yeah. Rabbi Herzog ruled that this makes the dye synthetic. And therefore, if it's synthetic, then it's certainly unfit for use. Nevertheless, there are still people today who wear the Techeilet of the Regina Rebbe. As Rabbi Herzog continued his research, he found that the French zoologist
Henry.
Oh, Henry.
I discovered a mollusk.
Yeah, had discovered a mollusk called the Murex trunculus that could create a blue dye. He decided in the end, though, that the best candidate was not that Murex trunculus, but rather it was the Janthina pallida. Alexander Dedekind, however, promoted Murex trunculus, and many people used Techeilet produced from these snails today.
Dedekind, there's a famous mathematician named Dedekind.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I wonder if that might be him. Sorry, then whenever a text or a phone call comes in, you get knocked out. Sorry. The majority of Jews today still do not wear Techeilet because we don't have a bona fide tradition coming from the time of the sages of exactly which animal is used, and there are still unanswered questions about the species suggested to be the genuine chilazon. So nowadays, if people ask me, why don't you wear Techeilet on your tzitzis? My simple answer is that in all the years that I spent in yeshiva, none of my Rabbeim wore Techeilet in their tzitzis. I was in Yisroel with Rav Ruderman Zatzal, who's one of the Gedolei Yisroel. Rav Moshe Feinstein didn't. I'm not knocking those who do, right? But why, right? So.
But there are those that do, and they're observant, they're religious. So what's the deal?
Some of those might be followers of the Regina Rebbe, right? What does Chabad do?
No.
Not.
No, because they also believe that.
Yeah.
But if you're not wearing a garment,
that's another issue.
What did you say?
Another issue. The prohibition of the Torah is to wear a four-cornered garment that does not have the strings on the four corners. That's the prohibition. Now, there are those that infer from the Dorotam that I was telling you through all generations is because that used to be the standard garment, and therefore a Jew would put the strings on. Now we have very few garments that are truly four-cornered garments. Maybe a poncho. Right, we have very few of the kapata.
When was the last time you had a toga party?
Not that I'm willing to admit to. Okay, right. So nowadays we don't have the four-corner garments. So there are those that say lidorotan means that even when we don't wear four-corner garments, get yourself an arba kanfos. Get yourself a four-cornered garment in order that you can fulfill this mitzvah. But you're not breaking the mitzvah. The only way to go against this mitzvah is to wear a four-cornered garment without the tzitzit. But the advantages of the mitzvah, if one is not wearing a four-cornered garment, so there's no prohibition, but one is not gaining the advantages of the mitzvah. I believe they say the Vilna Gaon, right before his death, was crying. And his Talmidim said to him, Rebbe, you've taught us, the Gemara, I think Mark Suvis says, that a person is crying before their death, it's a siman ra. It's a bad sign, it's a bad indication. Rebbe, why are you crying? And he said, I'm leaving a world where for a few kopecks you could buy a baguette of tzitzit and wear it. And you're fulfilling a mitzvah every moment you're wearing it. And the Gemara says that that's a mitzvah which allows you the highest of levels in the world to come of being roeh pnei shechina, to see the countenance of Hashem, whatever that means. But to have that connection, and I'm leaving such a world of opportunity, how can't I cry? Right?
Going to the world of MS.
Yeah, but the ability to aggregate is coming to an end.
Interesting.
Right? So that is the idea of the tzitzit, of the Techeilet. That's where we are today. Yes, Janet?
So the pasuk only says, have them make tassels on the corners of the garments for all generations. They shall include a twist of sky blue. So how does Gemara then know that's from Chilazon? I mean, where's these?
So that's a great question. But that's a question we could ask when the Torah says, when the Torah says you should keep Shabbos. How do we know that that's linked to the Mishkan and it's these 39 malachos? When the Torah says you should put an oat on your hand and totafah between your eyes, how do they know that it means these black boxes with the straps and it's 4 over there and it's 1 over there and there's 4 parshiyot inside? When it says you should shech the animal, right? How do you know it means using the knife on the neck? Maybe it means a bullet to the calf. I mean, throughout the Torah, everything is. When it says you should build a sukkah, what does a sukkah mean? When it says you should eat matzah, what does matzah mean? Every single thing in the Torah, what does that mean? So we have a Torah Shabbal Peh. When Hashem taught the Torah to Moshe, Moshe said, what are these tzitzit? What are these things? What is the Techeilet? Where does that come from? What is the tefillin? What is the Shabbos? What is the sukkah? What is every single thing in the Torah? Without the Torah Shabbal Peh, it is an absolutely closed book that we have no clue what to do with it. So that's a good question, but that's a question not about the Techeilet. or not just about the Techeilet. That's a question about our entire
But for
Torah.
example, for matzah, it says you shall have no leaven. It gives much more description.
What else goes in? What else can't go in? At what point is it considered leaven? What makes it leaven?
But there's still, of the malachet, it's because of how we weren't just supposed to gather manna and a couple of other things that are directly in the Torah.
You don't get anywhere near 39.
That's true, but you still get much more.
You don't get anywhere near to our Shabbos. Right? It's a Torah Shabbat Pen. That's how it is.
And then the next question, while it's true maybe women are more focused, and you've explained that you don't have to wear the four-cornered garment, so, but in those days, some women did have four-cornered garments, but they wouldn't have.
Correct. The Gemara learns out that this is not something that the women are obligated in.
Doesn't a woman still need the...
Yes, but she doesn't need the tzitzit to get there.
So
a woman needs to have the focus, but doesn't need the tzitzit in order to get there.
I also heard that it's because it's a time-bound mitzvah, which women are not obligated.
Correct. That's a general category, right?
Uri Semoso, which means when it's light out.
Correct.
See it.
Right. So it's time-bound. That's why the women are exempted. Right. Right. All the mitzvah that women are exempted from, what it means is they don't need that in order to attain their spiritual completion. Right? So I compare it to someone going into someone else's house, and you shouldn't do this, but you go into one person's house and you use the bathroom, you go there, and you open up the medicine cabinet, right? And you see they've got their medicine for heart, for lungs, for liver, for kidneys, for blood pressure, you name it, right? There's not an organ in that body that doesn't have its medication over there, right? And then you go into another person's house, and curious, you want to, compare and contrast. You open up their medicine cabinet, right? And you see some Band-Aids, Neosporin, Tylenol, right? So you say, this poor guy, he's got nothing in there. Now that guy, he's got a medicine cabinet. This guy, what does he have over there? Right? Now, if you need it, you use it, right? If you don't need it, then you don't use it. Okay.
This goes way beyond what the focus was for today, but the tzitzits have all kinds of mystical
yes,
meanings, and the wrappings, the four sections, 7, 8, 11, and 13, I think, and 7 and 8 is 15, which is the Yud K name of God, and the 13 is Echad, I think, and I forget what the 11 one is. So I mean,
it's Yud K Vav K Echad.
Vav K.
Yud K is 15. That's 7 and 8. Vav K is 11, and Echad is 13.
Okay.
Yes.
So when it says you should, you look at it and remember all the mitzvahs of God. You have, God's name.
Right, right. Though I don't know if most of us do the math right away, and that, that's what we think of when we see it. Yeah.
But I mean, once you learn that, then it's
absolutely
in the back of your
absolutely. And the 5 knots are, actually in the newsletter this week, the 5 knots of the Chamisha Chumshei Torah. What we were saying before, if that's the extension, right, of what we're meant to do, right? So that is, right, that's all the mitzvah. That's how we complete the world. What are we wrapped by? Right? By the 5 books, by Chamisha Chumshei Torah. And 8 strings, 8 is always going beyond the natural, the supernatural. That is how when we are bound by the 5 knots, meaning the Chamisha Chumshei Torah, that's what enables us to go beyond the 7 to the 8, to go beyond the physical to the supernatural, which is again why Brit Milah is on the 8th day. It's going beyond, it's using the Torah to go beyond the physical world and partner with Hashem and Hashem's creation. That's all the newsletter. This was a different approach today.